We are in Genesis chapter 19. It was evening when the two angels came to Sodom. Lot was sitting at Sodom's city gate. Seeing them, Lot rose up to meet them and bowed to the ground. And he said, My lords, turn aside, I beg of you, into your servant's house, and spend the night and bathe your feet. Then you can arise early and go on your way. But they said, No, we will spend the night in the square. Lot entreated and urged them greatly until they yielded, and with him entered his house. And he made them a dinner with drinking, and he had unleavened bread which he had baked, and they ate. But before they lay down, the men of the city of Sodom, both young and old, all the men from every quarter, surrounded the house. And they called to Lot and said, Where are the men who came to you tonight? And bring them out to us, that we may know, which is to be intimate with them. And Lot went out of the door to the men, and shut the door after him. And he said, I beg of you, my brothers, do not behave so wickedly. Look now, I have two daughters who are virgins. Let them, and let me, I beg of you, bring them out to you, and you can do as you please with them. But only do nothing to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof. But they said, Stand back. And they said, This fellow came in to live here temporarily, and now he presumes to be our judge. Now we will deal worse with you than with them. So they rushed out and pressed violently against Lot and came close to breaking down the door. But the men, the angels, reached out and pulled Lot into the house to them and shut the door after him. And they struck the men who were at the door of the house with blindness, which dazzled them from the youths to the old men, so that they were wearied, and they were groping to find the door. And the two men asked Lot, Have you any others here, sons-in-laws, or sons, or your daughters? Whomever you have in the city, bring them out of this place, for we will spoil and destroy Sodom. For the outcry and shriek against its people have grown great before the Lord, and he has sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who were to marry his daughters, and said, Up, get out of this place, for the Lord will spoil and destroy the city. But he seemed to his sons-in-law to be only joking. When morning came, the angels urged Lot to hurry, saying, Arise, take your wife and two daughters who are here, and be off, lest you too be consumed and swept away in the iniquity and punishment of the city. But while he lingered, the men seized him and his wife and his two daughters by the hand, for the Lord was merciful to him. And they brought him forth and set him outside the city and left him there. And when they had brought them forth, they said, Escape for your life. Do not look behind you or stop anywhere in the whole valley. Escape to the mountains of Moab, lest you be consumed. And Lot said to them, Oh, not that, my lords. Behold now, your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have magnified your kindness and mercy to me in saving my life. But I cannot escape to the mountains, lest the evil overtake me and I die. See, now yonder city is near enough to flee to, and it is a little one. Oh, let me escape to it. Is it not a little one? And my life will be saved. And the angel said to him, See, I have yielded to your entreaty concerning this thing also. I will not destroy the city of which you have spoken. Make haste and take refuge there, for I cannot do anything until you arrive there. Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar, which is little. The sun had risen over the earth when Lot entered Zoar. And then the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of the heavens. He overthrew and destroyed and ended those cities, and all the valley and all the inhabitants of the cities, and what grew on the ground. But Lot's wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. Abraham went up early the next morning to the place where he only the day before had stood before the Lord. And he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward all the land of the valley, and saw, and behold, the smoke of the country went up like the smoke of a furnace. When God ravaged and destroyed the cities of the plain of Siddim, he earnestly remembered Abraham, imprinted and fixed him indelibly on his mind. And he sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow. And when he overthrew the cities where Lot lived, and Lot went up out of Zoar, and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him. For he feared to dwell in Zoar, and he lived in a cave, he and his 2 daughters. The elder said to the younger, Our father is aging, and there is not a man on earth to live with us in the customary way. Come, let us make our father drunk with wine, and we will lie with him, so that we may preserve offspring, our race, through our father. And they made their father drunk with wine that night. And the older went in and lay with her father, and he was not aware of it when she lay down, or when she arose. Then the next day the firstborn said to the younger, See here, I lay last night with my father, and let us make him drunk with wine tonight also, and then you go in and lie with him, so that we may preserve offspring, our race through our father. And they made their father drunk with wine again that night. And the younger arose and lay with him, and he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she arose. Thus both the daughters of Lot were with child by their father. The older bore a son, and named him Moab, of a father. He is the father of the Moabites to this day. The younger also bore a son, and named him Benami, son of my people. He is the father of the Ammonites to this day. Genesis chapter 20. Now Abraham journeyed from there toward the south country, the Negeb, and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur, and he lived temporarily in Gerar. And Abraham said to Sarah his wife, She is my sister. And Abimelech king of Gerar sent and took Sarah into his harem. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said, Behold, you are a dead man, because of the woman whom you have taken as your own, for she is a man's wife. But Abimelech had not come near her. So he said, Lord, will you slay a people who are just and innocent? Did not the man tell me she is my sister? And she herself said, He is my brother. In integrity of heart and innocency of hands I have done this. Then God said to him in the dream, Yes, I know you did this in the integrity of your heart, for it was I who kept you back and spared you from sinning against me. Therefore I did not give you occasion to touch her. So now restore to the man his wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. But if you do not restore her to him, know that you shall surely die, you and all who are yours. So Abimelech rose early in the morning and called all his servants and told them all these things. And the men were exceedingly filled with reverence and fear. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, What have you done to us? And how have I offended you that you have brought on me and my kingdom a great sin? You have done to me what ought not to be done to anyone. And Abimelech said to Abraham, What did you see in us that justified you in doing such a thing as this? And Abraham said, Because I thought surely there is no reverence or fear of God at all in this place, and they will slay me because of my wife. But truly she is my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not of my mother. And she became my wife. And when God caused me to wander from my father's house, I said to her, This kindness you can show me. At every place we stop, say of me, He is my brother. Then Abimelech took sheep and oxen and male and female slaves, and gave them to Abraham, and restored to him Sarah his wife. And Abimelech said, Behold, my land is before you. Dwell wherever it pleases you. And to Sarah he said, Behold, I have given this brother of yours 1,000 pieces of silver. See, it is to compensate you for all that has occurred, and to vindicate your honor before all who are with you. Before all men you are cleared and compensated. So Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech and his wife and his female slaves, and they bore children. For the Lord had closed fast the wombs of all in Abimelech's household, because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. Genesis chapter 21. The Lord visited Sarah, and he said, and the Lord did. the Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for her as he had promised. For Sarah became pregnant and bore Abraham a son in his old age, and the set time God had told him. Abraham named his son, whom Sarah bore to him, Isaac, which meant laughter. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, as God had commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when Isaac was born, and Sarah said, God has made me to laugh. All who hear it will laugh with me. And she said, Who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children at the breast? For I have borne him a son in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast the same day that Isaac was weaned. And as Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, mocking Isaac. Therefore she said to Abraham, Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be an heir with my son Isaac. And the thing was very grievous, it was serious and evil in Abraham's sight on account of his son Ishmael. God said to Abraham, Do not let it seem grievous or an evil to you because of the youth and your bondwoman. In all that Sarah has said to you, do what she asked, for Isaac shall your posterity be called. And I will make a nation of the son of the bondwoman also, because he is your offspring. So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a bottle of water and gave them to Hagar, putting them on her shoulders, and he sent her and the youth away. And she wandered on aimlessly and lost her way in the wilderness of Beersheba. And when the water in the bottle was all gone, Hagar caused the youth to lie down under one of the shrubs. And then she went and sat down opposite him a good way off, about a bow shot. For she said, Let me not see the death of the lad. And as she sat down opposite him, he lifted up his voice and wept, and she raised her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the youth. And the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven and said to her, What troubles you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the youth where he is. Arise, raise up the youth, and support him with your hand, for I intend to make him a great nation. Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the empty bottle with the water, and caused the youth to drink. And God was with the youth, and he developed, and he dwelt in the wilderness, and became an archer. He dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him out of the land of Egypt. At that time Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his army, said to Abraham, God is with you in everything you do. So now swear to me here by God that you will not deal falsely with me or with my son or with my posterity. But as I have dealt with you kindly, you will do the same with me and with the land in which you have sojourned. And Abraham said, I will swear. When Abraham complained to and reasoned with Abimelech about a well of water, Abimelech's servants had violently seized. Abimelech said, I know not who did this thing. You did not tell me, and I did not hear of it until today. So Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave them to Abimelech. And the two men made a league or a covenant. Abraham set apart 7 ewe lambs of the flock. And Abimelech said to Abraham, What do these 7 ewe lambs which you have set apart mean? He said, You are to accept these 7 ewe lambs from me as a witness for me that I dug this well. Therefore that place was called Beersheba, well of oath, because there both parties swore an oath. Thus they made a covenant at Beersheba. Then Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his army, returned to the land of the Philistines. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and called there on the name of the Lord, the eternal God. And Abraham sojourned in Philistia many days. Genesis 22. After these events, God tested and proved Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and he said, Here I am. God said, Take now your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the region of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering upon one of the mountains of which I will tell you. So Abraham rose early in the morning. He saddled his donkey and took 2 of his young men with him and his son Isaac. And he split the wood for the burnt offering, and then began the trip to the place of which God had told him. On the 3rd day Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. And Abraham said to his servants, Settle down and stay here with the donkey, and I and the young man will go yonder and worship and come again to you. Then Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and laid it on the shoulders of Isaac his son. And he took the fire pot, in his own hand, and a knife, and the 2 of them went on together. And Isaac said to Abraham, My father. And he said, Here I am, my son. Isaac said, See, here are the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt sacrifice? Abraham said, My son, God himself will provide a lamb for the burnt offering. So the 2 went on together. When they came to the place of which God had told him, Abraham built an altar there. Then he laid the wood in the order and bound Isaac his son and laid him on the altar on the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand and took hold of the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he answered, Here I am. And he said, Do not lay your hand on the lad or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear and revere God, since you have not held back from me or begrudged giving me your son, your only son. Then Abraham looked up and glanced around, and behold, behind him was a ram caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up for a burnt offering and an ascending sacrifice instead of his son. So Abraham called the name of that place, The Lord Will Provide. And it is said to this day, On the mount of the Lord it will be provided. The angel of the Lord called to Abraham from heaven a 2nd time, and said, I have sworn by myself, says the Lord, that since you have done this, and have not withheld from me, or begrudged giving me your son, your only son, in blessing I will bless you, and in multiplying I will multiply your descendants like the stars of the heavens and like the sand on the seashore. And your seed, your heir, will possess the gate of his enemies. And in your seed, Christ, shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, and by him bless themselves, because you have heard and obeyed my voice. So Abraham returned to his servants, and they rose up and went with him to Beersheba. There Abraham lived. Now after these things it was told Abraham, Milcah has also borne children to your brother Nahor. Uz the firstborn, Buz his brother, Kemuel the father of Aram, Sheshad and Hazo, Fildash, Jildalaph, and Bethuel. Bethuel became the father of Rebekah. These 8 Milcah bore to Nahor, Abraham's brother, and his concubine, whose name was Remuel, bore Tabah, Gaham, Tahash, and Maacah.